On June 28, 1914, a 19-year-old student in the bustling streets of Sarajevo raised a pistol, pulled the trigger, and fired a shot that would hurl the world into catastrophe. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, was not just the act of a lone gunman. It was the product of old empires crumbling, nationalist dreams rising, and a Europe already balanced on a knife's edge. This is the story of why the Archduke was killed, how the assassination was carried out, and what became of his young assassin, Gavrilo Princip, the man whose shot shook the world. At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe was an uneasy chessboard of alliances and empires. Few were more precarious than the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It stretched from Vienna through Hungary and into the Balkans, ruling over Austrians, Hungarians, Czechs, Croats, Serbs, Slovaks, Poles, and more. To the outside world, it looked vast, powerful, and stable. But inside, it was brittle. Many of the empire's Slavic peoples longed for independence. Nationalism was spreading like wildfire. Across the border in Serbia, dreams of a greater South Slav state, what we now call Yugoslavia, burned fiercely. To Serb nationalists, Austria-Hungary was an oppressor. They wanted one nation for all Slavic peoples, and they were willing to fight for it. Into this fragile moment stepped Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Habsburg throne. He was not universally loved, even within his own empire. He was seen by some as a reformer, by others as arrogant and aloof. But above all, he was the symbol of the imperial system. And when he announced that he would tour Bosnia in the summer of 1914, many saw it as a deliberate provocation. The date chosen, June 28th, made matters worse. For Serbs, this was Vidovdan, the anniversary of the medieval Battle of Kosovo, a day of mourning and national pride. To parade a Habsburg heir through Sarajevo on that day was, to some, an insult too great to ignore. In Belgrade, a secret society plotted. Its name, unification or death. But history remembers it simply as the Black Hand. Founded by Serbian military officers, the Black Hand believed that only violence could drive Austria-Hungary out of the Balkans. They recruited young idealists, supplied them with weapons, and trained them for missions of sabotage and assassination. Among those drawn into their orbit was Gavrilo Princip. Princip was a frail young man, short, thin, often ill, but possessed of a burning conviction. He had grown up in poverty, the son of peasants. In his eyes, Austria-Hungary was the enemy of his people, and he dreamed of a South Slav nation free from imperial rule. In May 1914, the Black Hand smuggled Princip and 5 other young men into Bosnia. They carried pistols, grenades, and cyanide capsules to use if captured. Their mission was clear: kill Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The conspirators positioned themselves along the Apel Quay, the route the Archduke's motorcade would take through Sarajevo. Each one would have a chance. They were nervous, inexperienced, but determined. On the morning of June 28th, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie rode through the streets of Sarajevo in an open-topped car. Crowds lined the route, cheering, curious, unaware of the danger ahead. The first assassin lost his nerve as the car approached. The second, Nedeljko Kabrinović, hurled a hand grenade. The device bounced off the folded roof of the Archduke's car and exploded beneath the following vehicle. Soldiers and civilians were injured, but the Archduke was unharmed. Kabrinović swallowed his cyanide and jumped into the river, but the poison was weak and the water shallow. He was dragged out alive and beaten by the crowd. Franz Ferdinand, visibly shaken, insisted the motorcade continue to the town hall. There, he cut short the formalities. "I come here on a visit," he told the officials, "and bombs are thrown at me. It is outrageous." Still, he refused to cancel the rest of his program. Against advice, he pressed on. It was a decision that would prove fatal. After the ceremony, Franz Ferdinand decided to visit the wounded from the morning's attack. His driver set off once more through the city, but no one informed him that the route had been changed. At 10:45 a.m., the Archduke's car turned down Franz Joseph Street and realized too late it was the wrong road. The driver stopped to reverse. By sheer chance, the car came to a halt right in front of a small cafe. Standing outside that cafe was Gavrilo Princip. He had nearly given up hope. The attack had failed, the Archduke had survived, and then, as if fate itself intervened, the heir to the throne was suddenly right before him, motionless in his stalled car, barely a few steps away. Princip drew his pistol, a small Browning 9mm. He fired 2 shots. The first struck Sophie in the abdomen. The second hit Franz Ferdinand in the neck. As blood poured from his wound, the Archduke cried out, "Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." But within minutes, both husband and wife were dead. Immediately after the shots were fired, chaos erupted. Princip tried to turn the pistol on himself, but the crowd lunged at him before he could pull the trigger. He reached for his cyanide capsule, but the poison was old, weak, and failed to work. Enraged citizens nearly tore him apart on the spot. Police dragged him away, bruised, beaten, and barely conscious. Within hours, Gavrilo Princip was in custody, bound and under heavy guard. He would never walk free again. The assassination had shocked the world. In Vienna, the Austro-Hungarian authorities wanted justice and answers. In October 1914, Princip and his fellow conspirators were brought to trial in Sarajevo. When asked why he killed the Archduke, Princip declared, "I am a Yugoslav nationalist. I wanted the unification of all Yugoslavs, and I regret nothing." His words echoed with defiance. To him, Franz Ferdinand was not a man, but the symbol of an empire keeping his people in chains. But the law offered an unexpected twist. Under Austro-Hungarian law, the death penalty could only be given to those aged 20 or older. Gavrilo Princip was 19. Instead, he was sentenced to the maximum penalty available, 20 years in prison. For a sickly young man already battling tuberculosis, prison was a slow execution. Princip was sent to the fortress prison of Theresienstadt, in what is now the Czech Republic. The empire meant to make an example of him. In his life, there was one of deliberate suffering. He was kept in a damp, windowless cell, his hands shackled, his body weakened by hunger and cold. Guards mocked him, beat him, and denied him medical care. The once fiery student grew gaunt and skeletal. Tuberculosis spread through his body, eating away at his lungs and even his bones. His right arm became infected and had to be amputated. In letters smuggled out of the prison, Princip wrote that he no longer cared whether he lived or died. He weighed barely 40 kilograms, less than 90 pounds. On April the 28th, 1918, after 4 years of imprisonment, Gavrilo Princip died alone in his cell. He was 23 years old. His body was buried in an unmarked grave, hidden by the Austro-Hungarian authorities who feared that nationalists might turn his resting place into a shrine. To his captors, he was nothing more than a terrorist, a criminal whose act had brought ruin to Europe. But to many South Slavs, he became a martyr, a symbol of sacrifice for the dream of Yugoslav unity. Gavrilo Princip never lived to see the end of the war he had helped ignite. But when the guns fell silent in 1918, the Austro-Hungarian Empire lay in ruins. And in its place, a new state was born, the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, later known as Yugoslavia. Princip's dream of South Slav unity was realized, though not as he imagined, and not without terrible cost. He was just 19 when he pulled the trigger, 23 when he died in chains. Yet his 2 bullets echoed across the world, shaping the 20th century and ensuring that his name would never be forgotten. But the world did not wait for Princip's death. His 2 bullets had already lit the fuse. Within weeks, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia mobilized to defend the Slavs. Germany declared war on Russia, then on France. Britain entered to defend Belgium. What began as a local assassination spiraled into a chain reaction that engulfed the globe. The First World War began to rage. Princip's dream of a united Yugoslavia would eventually come true after the war, but it came at a price he could never have imagined. Tens of millions dead, empires shattered, and a world forever changed. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand was more than the end of an heir to the Habsburg throne. It was the end of an age. The shot fired in Sarajevo on that summer morning did not just kill a man and his wife. It ended the old world order and unleashed the modern age of total war. 1 bullet, 2 deaths, 4 years of slaughter, and a century later, the echoes of that shot still linger.